Joining us now on the Deseret First Credit Union hotline is one of our longtime friends, editor for SB Nation, and the very first guy I should point out on the Zach Wilson bandwagon. His name is Cam Mellor. Cam, how does the busy bandwagon feel now that you're leading a huge group of national analysts?
You know, it's pretty crowded, but I do love the victory lap every now and again. I love the I told you so, but I love not having to do it. So thanks for having me back. Thanks for talking about it. It's a crowded train. And I love the people that try to come out of nowhere and they're like, oh, I've been talking about Zach since December. Yeah, well, unless it's December 2018, come at me, because that's when we started.
Yeah, we'll wave the Cam Mellor flag. You betcha, man.
What was it, by the way, because you have been on the bandwagon, what was it that you saw early that really put Zach on the radar for you?
The uncoachables, the moments that make you say, wow, it was the athleticism, but it's the accuracy. So those things that you can't coach. There are things from other prospects that you can coach and fix. Kellen Mond being probably the prime example. He's got some, whoa, that was bad. You can probably coach that. Zach has the, whoa, that was amazing. You can't coach that. He also has the down for down accuracy, putting balls where only his receiver will have a chance to catch it. If they come down with them or not, that's a different situation, different story. 2020 saw more of those come down the positive way, but that's what he had. It was the uncoachable moments and that accuracy that you can't change and you can't grow on. He has it.
Cam, there have been some very strong reactions about what we feel like is a foregone conclusion that Zach Wilson will go number 2 to the New York Jets, specifically from BYU fans who I think wanted Zach to follow in the footsteps of Steve Young and be the next great 49ers quarterback. That's not going to happen. So how do you feel about Zach to the New York Jets at number 2 and the fit for him there?
I'm growing a little more fond of it just because of the Sam Darnold trade. They're all in, and I think the new regime may be able to buck that trend. And if you actually go back to it there, he'll be the 6th quarterback taken in the first round. It's a really mixed bag of quarterbacks taken by the Jets in the first round, but one of them is Ken O'Brien, really good career, derailed obviously by other things. And then Chad Pennington, very serviceable, lesser power, not power 5 back in the day quarterback. Pennington was great. He just did not have any talent around him. So if they can actually build around Zach, which it looks like they're doing, I'm growing more and more fond of the fit with the Jets. But let's also not forget that Steve Young didn't start his career with the 49ers. So there's also hope.
Amen to that. He was rocking that amazing orange uniform in Tampa Bay.
Yeah, the creamsicle uniforms.
Yeah, don't forget about that, BYU fans. Great point by Cam.
Well, look, here's the question. We all believe it's a foregone conclusion, and by all accounts, it really is. Is there any scenario that could play out where the Jets do not take Zach Wilson? What percentage do you put on them not taking Zach?
It's the NFL draft. I'll never say never, but I would have to say it's less than 0.01% that they don't take him. I think they're already getting ready for memorabilia and merchandise to be sold with Wilson number 1 on the jersey. I think this is it. I mean, you see Adam Schefter even at this point saying he texted Zach saying, welcome to New York officially. So if Schefty's doing it, I got to believe in that and also believe in everything else I've been hearing too. So it's, the draft starts at 3. I think it's going to eventually start at 5 after we realize we got 4 quarterbacks going with the first 4 picks, but Zach is firmly entrenched in that number 2, I believe.
Zach has been in the conversation in large part with Justin Fields of Ohio State as who's the second best quarterback behind Trevor Lawrence. We know where you stand in that matter. We know where the Jets stand in that regard, but then there's the case of Justin Fields. Is he going to be the guy that goes at number 3 to the 49ers? I've seen him dropping as far as number 12 or 14. What do you think?
I think it's growing steam, I think, is that. There was the Mac Jones going to San Francisco, and then it was all of a sudden this past week, pump the brakes. It's not Mac Jones, and all of a sudden the public persona is, oh, yeah, Mac Jones had a couple of DUI arrests after they wanted to believe he was number 3 caliber. I think Fields has been long since the third best quarterback in this draft class by some considerable margin. I think there's a huge drop-off from 1A, 1B in Wilson Lawrence to number 3. I do think Fields, though, is getting probably some unfair criticism in the sense that people are saying he doesn't look off the first receiver. He's terrible on his second reads. I think there's one thing that Justin Fields doesn't do very well, and that's distinguish between defenses. He can't read necessarily as the play is going on. We noticed it in the college football playoff where he threw that ugly interception. Whether it was a receiver miscommunication or not, he does not diagnose the center field safety. So that's something that I think can be coached too. So you're looking at probably a very very solid, serviceable quarterback, and the Niners should be lucky to get him.
All right, so then at number 4, then you have the Atlanta Falcons. Obviously, they still have Matt Ryan, but he's no spring chicken anymore. So if you think the first 4 picks are all going to be quarterbacks, which quarterback do you think goes to the ATL?
Oh, I don't think they could pick Mac Jones there. I think they'd have to go with the higher upside of a guy like Trey Lance. You know, you can't go from one field general and Matty Ice to another field general, so to speak. So I think you go Trey Lance with the proverbial, which I don't like, the higher ceiling in Trey Lance. I know he's got a lesser competition, but if you want him to come in and learn, that's an ideal situation for Lance to fit right there under Matt Ryan, MVP. I mean, this is not caliber quarterback. This is a guy who led them to multiple play. I mean, he's got everything. He's going to be in the history books, top 10 passer of all time, yards, touchdowns, completions. So if you want somebody to come in and learn, have a great situation, it's Lance at 4. So I do think the draft will eventually wind up starting at 5.
NFL Draft and Football Insider, editor for SB Nation, Cam Mellor, with us on BYU Sports Nation. Cam, we're obviously focusing a lot on the quarterbacks for good reason. This is a wild draft that we're leading up to. And again, we're in agreement that Zach's more than likely going to go to the New York Jets at number 2. But you said that you think they might build around him. The Jets have 21 picks over the next 2 drafts. They've got 10 this year. They just signed Corey Davis, a former number 5 overall pick at wide receiver. They've got Jamison Crowder. What else do the Jets need to do to help Zach succeed?
They need another viable number 2 receiver or a slot threat. I think you need somebody that's got or going to build a good chemistry with Zach. Running backs are relatively replaceable. A great slot receiver is not quite as valuable as I think it probably should be in the public persona. I think another pass catcher. You can't have too many in the NFL nowadays. It's turning into more of the college aerial assault attack, which bodes very well for Zach's game. So somebody that's going to be that third option for him to find when the play breaks down, when he's got to get outside the pocket. I wouldn't also hate a couple more offensive linemen for him to, make sure he's safe. Mekhi Becton should be, probably a Pro Bowler there at left tackle. So he's got the blind side already safe there with probably one of the strongest guys in the league in Becton. But another pass catcher, I mean, with how talented and how stacked this receiver class is this season, this draft class, I think a receiver at either that first round pick or even that first pick of their first second round pick, I think should go to pass catcher.
You mentioned offensive line, and let's go there. Brady Christensen is a guy that wowed during the season and by all accounts improved his stock after BYU's Pro Day. Where do you feel he is best? Where's his best fit in terms of the draft? Is he a day 2 guy? I think I would be shocked if he's there in the 4th round. How much of an improvement do you think he made based off of his Pro Day?
Oh, I think the Pro Day just got people looking at him a little bit harder. I don't think that there was any question in my mind that he was a top 4 or 5 tackle in this draft class. I think, if he had a little bit better sort of prognosis or projection to left tackle in the NFL, we'd be talking about him at the tail end of round 1. So I think day 2 is absolutely where Christensen goes. I think he slides to right tackle, plays a little bit more there, maybe even can play a swing tackle role. If a team that he goes to or the fit he goes to has 2 starting tackles, you look at him, get him a little bit stronger there. But I don't think he needs much help, much more. Maybe a little bit better foot speed, but I mean, you train him up in the NFL, and this is a 10-year starter at either left or right tackle, in my opinion, in Christensen.
Cam Mellor on BYU Sports Nation. After Zach Wilson and Brady Christensen, then it becomes a really interesting conversation for all of the remaining BYU guys. You have wide receiver Dax Milne, who is a guy that maybe could be serviceable in the slot. Kairos Tonga, nose tackle. Not to mention Chris Wilcox, who ran a 4.31 at defensive back. He was well off the radar before BYU's Pro Day. And then Matt Bushman, among others. So who's the third guy? Who's the most likely of that group of guys to be drafted after Zach Wilson and Brady Christensen?
It's probably a toss-up, but I'd have to go with Tonga just based upon, athletic profile. I would have liked to have seen a little bit better numbers, I think, just in general, all across the career of his, as a pass rusher. You don't want to be just a one technique or a run stuffer at defensive tackle. But Tonga, I think, is there. I think he's got the profile of an NFLer, but I wouldn't really be surprised at all if Wilcox slides up, just because he could play special teams right away. That fills a need and a void. You get a serviceable, look at a guy like Dean Marlowe. He's on his second team. He was out of JMU. He just signed on after multiple years with the Bills. He was a valuable special teamer. They're significantly more valuable around in the NFL this time of year. So honestly, I think Wilcox is up there as well. But I'd probably go Tonga, and then you move on to either one of the offensive linemen or Bushman.
We were having this discussion the other day in terms of the number of BYU players that could be drafted, and it's been a long time since the Cougars have had, 4, maybe even 5 guys drafted in the NFL draft. How many do you think will be drafted in 3 weeks?
It's tough. 5's probably a great, maybe 5.5 is a great over-under, which even then I'd probably slide up into the over. I'd maybe say 6. I think we could get 6 at the tail end there. If you look at Wilson, Christensen, Tonga's going to go, Bushman will go. I do think Wilcox goes. And then if you're sitting there at the Jets in the 6th or 7th round and you have Zach Wilson's roommate and best friend with an automatically built-in amazing rapport in Dax Milne, there's your 6th person right there alone. So that's leaving out the other offensive linemen as well. So I think that there truly is hope or a necessity in this year's draft class that 6 of them could go.
You're speaking to the hearts and minds of BYU fans in a great way, Cam. It's been 12 years since BYU had multiple draft picks, let alone 5 or 6. Honestly, our expectations are, because of how things have gone, maybe 4 would be great.
A minimum of 4. That's kind of what I said, a minimum of 4. And if you get 5 or 6, you're throwing your hands up in, joy.
Okay, so here
at this point, I could see it 4.5 as the over/under, and
right.
I'm happy laying odds on the over there.
Okay, I love it. You may need some time to think about this next question, but who's the next BYU guy that could follow somewhat in the shoes of Zach Wilson and be the next star that you're ahead of the curve on compared to all the national analysts? A guy that is going to be an NFL guy that isn't right now.
I need no time. It's Peyton Wilgar, 100%, 3-down linebacker, absolutely day 2 draft pick right now, improve his draft stock. This is a guy the NFL needs, can cover, can stuff the run, can cover though, but not just covers running backs, tight ends, and line him up against a slot guy. I think he's athletic, more athletic than he gets credit for. So Wilgar absolutely is that 3-down linebacker in today's NFL.
I love it.
Wow.
Get this man some BYU gear. Rock that, baby. Let's go, Cam. Peyton Wilgar, the next guy. He's ahead of the curve on this one.
I like it. Hey, look, the track record's been pretty good so far, which, by the way, since obviously we've talked about you been on the ahead of the curve on a lot of this, where can people find your stuff?
Oh, it's pretty easy. Just Cam Mellor at Twitter. At Cam Mellor, Mellor. Pretty easy to find most of it there. That's my the freedom to talk about what I want to talk about. The day job, sort of, I have to do what I have to do. But the freedom where you get these opinions is on Twitter the easiest way.
Hey, we appreciate the time as always, my friend. Great insight. And choo-choo. Let's go.
Choo-choo. I've been driving this train for a while. It's not getting boring, I tell you that.